So, in my last video, I made a thruster-powered car. Now, not in the conventional way you might expect. I tried to make a thruster-powered engine, which went okay, but it wasn't powerful enough to actually push the car properly, and it couldn't really go much else. So today, I'm going to try and make a better one. Now, this isn't just going to be a better engine. It's also going to be hopefully have a reverse gear, and also have a second gear, which makes it go faster. And also, you can, well, kind of a brake kind of thing, so it can stop and doesn't have to going on forever. As the last one, you couldn't stop. Now, the main problem with this is going to be the engine, as thrusters are okay, but they're very unpredictable, and especially at high speeds, they don't work very well. Which is why we might encounter some issues with using thruster power. Or we might change it to a piston engine later, but I'm not very good with pistons, so we'll see. So first, I basically just started making the engine. It didn't take me too long, as I had made one before in my last video, and it went okay. Now they're pretty simple. They just use, well, a sensor and a logic gate and some thrusters, which managed to push around the crankshaft using, well, the power thrust. So it was pretty simple to get working. I basically just put some logic gates down and a thruster, and then tried to get it to work. Now there were a few problems with it, as it didn't rotate right now, and that's quite a big problem. But it can be pretty easily solved. Now I don't know what the problem was, but it just doesn't seem to rotate, which is quite a big problem. But I think it might be due to, well, some collisions happening, so let's change some of it. So yeah, eventually I did get it working, and it rotated pretty smoothly. Obviously, it wasn't the best, but anyway. So now I'm going to start using cogs or gears. Now cogs basically allow me to, well, transfer a rotation quite long distance, so I'm going to start using them. And they're also going to be pretty useful later when we're doing gears and other stuff. Now the main problem now is that the rotational power isn't where we want it. Obviously, we want it to be somewhere else. So pretty simply, I made a cog on the bottom, so transfer it over to somewhere where we can actually start doing stuff with it, like adding a reverse gear. Now, I did have quite a big idea of how I was going to do this all, and I'm pretty sure it would work. But as you can see now, it now turns this shaft over here using cogs. Now, it's pretty simple, but it's actually quite a lot of progress, as now we can actually start. So then I started adding cog, and this is where the reverse gear will be. It'll be a really simple reverse gear, but it will work. So here's how it works. When we push this piston forward, it'll basically just activate the reverse gear. If you get what I mean, currently it's spinning this way, as that's where, as the gear is coming on the cog, but now it switches it so the other gear is on the cog, and this will cause it to spin the opposite direction. That's a pretty bad explanation, but if you look at it, you'll probably get it. So as you can see, the wheel's spinning this way, and now if I get a switch to activate this, it shall spin the other way. As you can see, it spins the other way. And a relatively little delay, and the delay should be better when we have, more wheels on the ground. So yeah, as you can see, it works relatively well. And now I'm going to try add gears. Now, to add gears, we're using gear ratios. Now, I believe this gear ratio is 2 to 1. So, well, I don't know how they work really, but it basically makes it go faster. Now, this is going to be easily activated. Well, you can easily activate it with a piston, which makes this thing relatively simple. And now it should be close to working. Now, currently, it obviously doesn't work, but anyway. So now I'm just adding the final cogs in for the gear ratio, and it should work. So when this piston pushes forwards, one of the cogs will be on that angled cog bit, if you kind of see what I mean. And this basically means that it turns more. as it, well, yeah, turns more. I can't really explain it as I'm not very good at explaining, but I'm sure there's something behind it. So anyway, for now I'm powering this thing by an electric engine as a faster engine needs some improvements, but I mainly want to get this actual systems working properly. But it's also really quite satisfying because it looks like the engine's moving in slow motion. No, it doesn't work very well with the cogs, but it still looks pretty cool. Now, as you can see, currently the main some of the cogs are spinning incredibly slowly. Now with wheels, they'll be spinning more consistently as well, or sometimes they're going really quick, and sometimes they're going really slow. And that's one of the things with working with cogs that it will do. But anyway, so then I started, experimenting with a piston engine, as they have way more power and would be able to power this thing better. But this didn't work because I didn't know how to make piston engines. So we went back to thrusters. And also it's powered by an electric engine, which I don't like, but we'll probably change that later. Now the gear ratio should work, but I haven't tested it yet, so we'll test it in a bit. So now we actually need to add a rotational power to the wheels, and also add some sort of brake thing to make it so, well, obviously it can stop. Now, this isn't going to be a brake, but it's basically going to mean it basically just disconnects the main shaft, or the rotational power, to the wheels, which will basically stop this thing from moving. Or if you're on a hill, it'll roll down the hill. Now I could add a brake, but I couldn't really be bothered as this thing was probably going to get laggy enough as it had around 1,000,000 bearings and pistons in it, which probably wasn't very healthy. So I started working on this thing. My idea was a piston would just push some shafts into like this gear kind of thing, and it would turn the piston kind of. That's a bad explanation, but I'll show you what I mean. So I did this, and I thought it would turn, as it would make sense to, but it doesn't work. It's just, yeah, it doesn't work. So we need to improve this. So anyway, how it works. As you can see, this thing, these like prongs insert into the cog, which sounds a bit odd, and then they start turning. Now it definitely works, so let's get on to the next bit. So now I actually need to get the rotational force to the wheels, when we add wheels. Currently it's going in the wrong axis of direction, so we're going to make it go in a different direction. Now currently, as you can see, it does work, and it works relatively well. Although it probably won't work with the amount of cogs we have when we actually have wheels, as friction changes a lot. So as you can see, it works relatively well. It currently is actually moving, which is quite surprising. But it's also powered by an electric engine. So yeah, we can also activate the reverse gear if we wanted to. But one of the main problems right now is that the gears are just slipping and not turning each other. Primarily at the end, where the gears that will change the axis of rotation are. So right now, I want to add more power to the whole thing because it obviously wasn't more powerful enough. So I decided to try one of the things that I never really wanted to try, a piston engine. I'm not good at pistons, as I never really made a piston engine before, but eventually I did get a design working. Kind of. Now, it almost worked, it's just it didn't. And that's mainly because it looks like it's working, but there's also an electric engine under it trying to push it, which means that it worked better than it should have. So time to make a different one. The main problem was activating the pistons at the right time, which I got right with this system. So I made a 3-piston engine. Now I didn't know if this would be powerful enough to actually, make this thing work, but it was turning, and it was pretty satisfying as well, seeing all the pistons move in sync to actually make rotation. Now it did seize up a bit, which means we need more pistons. So I carried on making this piston engine better and make it work better. Now currently it actually moves kind of. It's not at a really bad speed either, but as this is only on about the first gear, it's not even that bad. But it sometimes just completely stops, which is why we need to make this piston engine better. So anyway, now the main one was that we built this piston engine vertical instead of horizontal. But anyway, I built the car up around it, and also made the piston engine have 5 pistons instead, as this should offer enough power to turn the thing. Now this thing was definitely not perfect, or even that good, and it's a shame, because all the systems work fine, so that the cogs keep slipping and don't work very well. And also this thing's absolutely massive. It's way bigger than it needs to be. It's mostly because of the way it was set up, and it definitely could have been better, but well. So yeah, this thing doesn't really work. On the time that it does work, you can't go into second gear, although you can go into reverse. You have to hit it with a sledgehammer as well, but it's not that bad, especially for one of the first ones I ever made with this. And it actually works okay. I know the van looks pretty bad, but it does work, so I'm happy with it. Now, it's a bit annoying that it doesn't really move, as if it even goes into the slightest incline, it'll just stop moving. Even though the engine is incredibly powerful, there's just not enough, friction between the cogs, and they just keep slipping. Which is kind of a shame. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.